I think we can get started. What do you think? Welcome, everyone. Welcome to this very special event here at Get Set Up. It's called Menopositivity, Talking Menopause with the founders of Womaness. My name's Deb, and I'm a guide at Get Set Up, and I'm going to be your host today. As a community of older adults who always like to stay informed, Get Set Up is really thrilled to have Sally and Michelle with us today to discuss menopause, perimenopause, and how we can really support each other through them. Before we get started, I want to cover a few housekeeping items. For those of you who are tuning in live through our Get Set Up Zoom class, please remember to mute yourself during the heart of the workshop. But do keep your cameras on. You know how we feel about that. If you're comfortable, we can even enjoy connecting with each other so that you can capture some images to share in the future. So we'll have a photo op later on in the day as well. If you have a clarifying question while Sally or Michelle are speaking, please let us know in the chat box. You're familiar with using that. And we will do our best to call them to their attention in real time. Otherwise, we're going to leave some time toward the end of the session to take questions directly from you for our guests in the second half of the hour, roughly 20 till. For those who are joining our community through live stream on Get Set Up TV or on Facebook or on YouTube, you are welcome to enter questions into the chat. We will do our very best to get to everyone's questions. And now on to our special guests. I would like to introduce you first to Sally. Sally is 56 years old and is the co-founder and the CEO of Womaness, modern menopause solutions from head to toe, top to toe. She is a seasoned executive with an impeccable entrepreneurial acumen. She spent over 2 decades of her career at the iconic Target Corporation, first in apparel merchandising and in marketing, helping to build that bullseye from a regional discount retailer to one of the world's most recognized and influential brands. She developed and implemented Target's designer program and Design for All platform, transforming the regional discount retailer into a global phenomenon that we're all familiar with. Sally went on to launch her own company, Wise Branding, where she formed a licensing relationship with Who, What, Where, and successfully launched the consumer products line in Target stores. And they ultimately achieved international distribution. She was then named Chief Brand Officer for Click Brands, overseeing their consumer brands division, where she launched Joy Lab at Target, incubated Versed Skincare, and expanded Who, What, Where internationally. Wow, very busy. Lots of accomplishments there. Sally's encore is creating a revolutionary consumer hit with the introduction of Womaness, which just debuted this year, 2021 in March, a brand that is changing the conversation around menopause through innovative products that offer solutions from head to toe and everything in between. Readily available via Target. Womaness provides trusted advice on symptoms from hot flashes to sleep issues to fine lines, and support from an inspired community of women who don't believe in the pause of menopause and exude menopositivity, also known as a dynamic, joyful outlook that embraces who we are today. A lifelong Minnesotan, Sally and her family reside outside of Minneapolis. Thank you, Sally, for being here with us today.
Oh, thanks so much, Deb, and the entire team at Get Set Up. This is so exciting.
We're glad to have you. And I'd like to also introduce you to Michelle. Michelle is 49, and she's the co-founder and the COO of Womaness. She's a strategic development leader with a sweet spot in brand building. She leads sales, branding, partnerships, licensing, logistics, inventory planning, and financial management. She's worked across multiple categories from home to health, decor to baby, for both startups and established brands. Michelle began her career in licensing, and then she spent a few years at a digital media agency leading client relationships for Polo, Ralph Lauren, and Lancome. After she earned her business degree, Michelle marketed billion-dollar brands like Centrum and Advil to every store from the corner bodega to Costco. Michelle then spent a decade with Time Incorporated, launching and developing the licensing and retail business for Real Simple and Cooking Light and In Style magazines, with mass retail partners that included Target, Bed Bath & Beyond, BJ's Wholesale Club, and Crate and Barrel. Michelle was recruited to QVC and Home Shopping Network to manage the retail rollout for the Joy Magano brand. Yes, that's Joy Magano, aka inventor of the Miracle Mop and the Huggable Hangers. Remember those? You know those? Many years and many brands later, with Michelle now in her late 40s, the entrepreneurial urge hit, and she knew it was time to establish a business of her own. So she co-founded Womaness. Originally from Long Island, Michelle is a New Yorker through and through. She earned her BA from Colgate University in Hamilton, New York, and her MBA from New York University. She lives in Larchmont, New York, with her husband and their sons, Eli and Max. So welcome, Michelle.
Hi, thank you very much.
So good to have you here, and I'm eager to get into the questions, and I know that the two of you are going to kind of play off of each other, so I'll just launch into the first question and we'll follow where that leads. And I'd like to start with Sally, if I could. Sally, could you tell us your story? How and why did you found Womaness together?
Yeah, well, thanks again for that incredible introduction. It's always fun to hear someone else tell our 35 plus year career. Combined, I think it's what, 50, almost 60, right, Michelle?
Yeah.
Amazing careers.
Yeah, thank you. So, you know, a lot of our impetus to create Womaness was really our careers of just creating brands for women. So between Michelle and I, as Deb said, we've created these amazing brands across fashion, beauty, lifestyle, home. And what really happened was kind of a couple aha moments. So for me personally, I think it was about 3 years ago, I was at the Mayo Clinic in a doctor's appointment with the doctor in the Women's Health Center, which is a particular focus within the Mayo Clinic. Obviously, they specialize in menopause, among other women's health issues. And I must have filled out some intake form and found myself in this conversation that was a little awkward about vaginal dryness and some of the other symptoms I was experiencing. And what I realized in that conversation is I was so uninformed about menopause. I knew I was in menopause, but I had no idea that the issues I was experiencing were actually related to menopause. And the doctor was so gracious that day. You know, she reassured me that what I was experiencing was so common. She sees patients all day long with the same issues. And she suggested that I buy some of the products that they had vetted. So I went home that night and I looked at the list of products and I thought, I am never buying any of these products. No disrespect to their choices. It was the best that they could find in the market. But the products were they didn't speak to me. The names were very hard to pronounce, which I thought just didn't feel very modern and, you know, didn't speak to me. The ingredients were not necessarily, you know, clean ingredients, natural ingredients. And the packaging just looked like it had been designed by, you know, men in their 60s. Sorry, no disrespect, but a lot of these brands had not been reinvented in decades. So that was kind of my aha moment of like, I should be really tackling this opportunity as a brand builder, as a retailer. Here I'm creating all of these brands for younger women. Why not and why not a brand for me? And specifically, I just felt like menopause was just an untapped opportunity. and started really digging into the overall market size of the market, and had no idea that 50 million women just in the US alone are going through menopause at any given time. And I think globally there's 6,000 women entering perimenopause at any given time. So it's a huge market. And some of you may know that it's even like financially just a massive financial market, because this woman has more spending power. She's already investing, I've heard, like $25,000 of her own money on menopause, whether it's through doctors or products or services. She's out there searching for solutions to also be better educated about it. So it's a big opportunity. So, you know, for me, it was a personal journey, but also as a businesswoman, I felt like it was a great opportunity to bring something that had so much meaning to really help women. You know, it wasn't just another line of fashion. It was really going to help women in their lives. So on an upcoming trip to New York, I was telling Michelle about my own personal experience and this desire to do something in this space. And Michelle was like, oh my gosh, this is so exciting. I want to do this with you. I'll let Michelle speak to her own aha moment, but we really took these personal experiences to really form what the brand is today, which is all about education, inspiration, and innovative products. So Michelle, do you want to just speak to your?
Yeah, I mean, where I, at the same time, Sally was sort of going through her journey. I was, you know, finishing up working at Home Shopping Network and trying to decide what to do next, and talking to a lot of my friends who were in, you know, their late 40s, early 50s. And there was this sort of similar response I was getting from so many women within my network and my friend group that was just a little bit dissatisfied with their corporate life, a little unmotivated, uninspired, and almost a feeling of not being appreciated for all they had to offer, you know, whether it's the wisdom and confidence that they had gained through their career, their expertise from their career. And it felt like there needed to be some sort of celebration of this woman at this time in her life. And that when Sally and I started talking about what was going on in the market and seeing what where the menopause space was, it was uninspiring is the word I would use. It talked to women in a way that did not reflect any of the women I knew at that time. They, you know, my friends, my colleagues, my network of women friends were so successful, so smart, so accomplished, beautiful, took good care of themselves. Some of them were amazing athletes. Some of them had amazing passions and hobbies. And I didn't feel like any of that was reflected back to me. So when Sally started talking to me about this opportunity, I said, you know, not only does the product need to be reimagined, but the marketing and messaging and the way she's spoken to also has to be reimagined, because this woman is not looking for, as Sally said, products that were been on the shelf for the last 30 years. She wants something made for her with imagery that reflects back who she is. So we looked at those two pieces as huge opportunities and something that was meaningful and purposeful to our own lives. So it kind of came together quickly and sort of naturally because it felt so core to who we were.
Sounds like you had a lot of synergy going there. Can you talk a little bit more about your area of focus with Womaness?
So really, I mean, Sally and I both have very similar backgrounds. You know, we both have brand building, licensing, product development, retail sales. So we almost really had like naturally sort of divided and conquered is almost the word I would use. My focus really has been about the product development. I work with a lot of experts, whether they're doctor experts, experts in specific fields, also product experts, people who really understand skincare, really understand supplements, understand manufacturing, and come up with a product line that made sense for the symptoms we were trying to help. So I would say my focus has really been on product development and what the messaging is around those products and making sure that we are getting information from our consumer base in terms of what she's what are her points of pain in a way, or what are her symptoms? What are the things that she's not finding a solution for, and making sure we have something for her.
Okay. Well, as a woman that's had a similar experience to Sally's, I can feel so excited about what you're describing here right now. And Sally, can we shift back to you for a moment? Can you talk about why menopause and perimenopause is so important for us to discuss, and why aren't there more discussions about it?
Yeah, the average woman spends 1/3 of her life in menopause, meaning perimenopause as well as postmenopause. So it's a huge piece of all of our lives. And it's so important. And Michelle and I have learned so much as we've talked to our experts that we've surrounded ourselves with in our own research. But it's so important that women in their 30s and 40s are more informed about what to potentially what they'll go through as they go through perimenopause and into menopause. So being proactive, being prepared is just absolutely critical. And I think, the difference is from my generation and even Michelle's generation is women in their 40s now are a lot more aware of menopause and the symptoms related to menopause, which we can touch on during the session, than even my friend group in their 50s. So I think there will be a sea change that will happen. Women in their 40s now will be way more educated about menopause. And they're very much focused on self-care already. And I'm talking more of like that older millennial generation than even my generation, which I call Gen X. So while we are focused on self-care now, I think that younger woman has been focused on it from her, even her 30s, right? So it's just a very different mindset and lifestyle focus. And just major generational differences that we see, which is really interesting.
Just to add to that, I think that it used to be when you talked about menopause, you were almost thinking about this white-haired older woman that was sort of at the end of something. And I think as a woman, as somebody in today's world talking about menopause, you didn't want people to think about you like that. Because like I said, we're not those women. 50 today is a lot different than what 50 was 30 years ago. So one of the things that Sally and I are trying to do, and there are many people in this menopause space all trying to do this, which is stop thinking about women in menopause as this end of the road, tired, kind of very old elderly woman. Instead, it's really taking place in midlife, at the height of her career, at the height of her health and wellness, at the height of a lot of things. And so she can talk about it. And it's not because I think, to answer your original question, it wasn't talked about because of the stigma that was associated. Yeah. Right. And we're saying there is no stigma because Sally is one of the coolest people I know. And a lot of the women I know are amazing. Certainly not conjuring up that image of that elderly woman that I think was sort of the old fashioned way of thinking of menopause.
Yeah. We, in our investor deck that we used to pitch, to raise money a year ago, we showed a photo of the Golden Girls. And then we showed a photo of, these sexy celebrities that are 50, 52, 53. And it shocked every investor, like literally the difference. And so what Michelle is saying is, the mindset was the Golden Girls, but you really need to think about Jennifer Lopez and, just some of the celebrities and, all of our friends too, that, are not, they're not the stigma, they're not, portraying this older version of the Golden Girls.
They're not identifying with the Golden Girls.
So yeah, they're not identifying, and we're not old, we're in kind of our prime. So
there's this great shift that seems to be occurring. Yeah. And that moves right into my question. What is menopositivity?
Well, it's really what Michelle was saying. It's an outlook on life. It's a much more positive, radiant view of where we're at today. And it doesn't mean that we're not empathetic to each other and some of the challenges that menopause brings, but it's looking at it through a positive lens, because a lot of women have said to us that it is a really positive time in their life. You know, they are more confident. They've built all of this wisdom and experience. They also feel like they're not going to kind of put up with whether it's a job that they're not fulfilled with or some situation. They're going to change. They feel more empowered. And so, you know, it's something that we wanted to really celebrate in women.
Mhm.
And it doesn't mean we're tone deaf to some of the challenges. Like I said, we will be empathetic, and we're really trying to practice that, through our communication with our community. But we do think there's a lot to celebrate. And women have told us that they want an opportunity to really be inspired, hear from other women, and really spread the menopositivity.
And here we are.
Yeah, exactly.
Wonderful. And so I want to ask Michelle now, can you talk to us a little bit more about menopause and perimenopause? And tell us about those, and how are they different from typical aging signs, Michelle?
Sure. Menopause is the easier one to define because it is when you have not had your period for 12 months. At that point, you are officially considered in menopause. Prior to that, and the years leading up to that, you could experience symptoms of menopause of all kinds, whether it's hot flashes or night sweats. You get irregular periods. Some people get very heavy periods. But until you've gotten to that point where you are not having your period anymore, and it can, some women, it takes years, sort of perimenopause drags on until you stop getting your period. And some women have their last period and that's it, and they're done. My mother tells me that all the time. I had my last period, I never had it again, and that was it. So, and then that period of menopause can also last up to 10 years of just having, as your hormones readjust and rebalance. But then you can have the hot flashes and night sweats and joint pain. I mean, there's a laundry list of things that could happen. So that's really sort of the differentiator between perimenopause and menopause. That answers the question.
And now, yeah, that's a great answer. So, and how did those things differ from just typical?
Oh, so general aging, right? You did ask me. Aging happens from birth to death. You age your whole life. All kinds of aging could occur. Your skin, your hair, your outlook. I mean, aging is a very broad term. In menopause, there is a drop in your estrogen production and your collagen production, number one. And the changes to your skin, your body, your hair, your nails is drastic. And from some women, we hear like it is almost like, what happened overnight? My hands look different. My skin looks different. It's the difference between, I have a few wrinkles on my forehead to like my skin is remarkably different. And that is the loss of collagen. I believe it's 30%. You have a 30% change in collagen between pre and post menopause. It's that difference that occurs that is really the difference between aging and menopause. Like I said, many women say it's a drastic change. Like literally in 1 year, they'll say my skin is so different. Obviously, also the changes with hot flashes, night sweats, and inability to sleep, and some of the mood changes. That is also menopause related, not necessarily just general aging related.
Okay, thank you. It's helpful to have that distinction, draw that.
Yeah, and like I said, it can be drastic. So we do say that to people. We hear so often, like, I woke up one day and I feel different. My hair is different, my weight is different. All of a sudden, overnight, I gained 10 pounds and I cannot lose it. I mean, these are changes in your body that are really triggered by entering into menopause.
But there is a positive approach to all of those changes, right?
Of course. I mean, that's what what we are about is being there for women. Like, we're all in it together. You're not alone. Let's celebrate the good, not the bad. You still look beautiful. There are plenty of things you can do to make yourself feel better. But it's to have a little bit of sense of humor, a little, not, menopause is part of life and every single woman goes through it. So it's not something to say like, oh, this is the worst thing that ever happened to me. Like the energy around the brand and around Sally and me and our team is let's think of all the good and the positive and celebrate it and move forward.
That sounds so hopeful. So hopeful. Sally, I want to ask you a question now. What is it that women can do who are entering or are in menopause to get support from their healthcare professional? Because I know that's something that I went through. Going through menopause was sort of a non-event because nobody really talked about it. Oh,
Yeah.
well, you're there, you're not getting your period anymore, so you must be in menopause, end of story. So what can we do to get a little better support?
Yeah, no, it's such a great question, and it's really a big opportunity because the medical community is actually not trained very well in menopause. So a lot of women have told us that their doctor kind of looks at them and avoids really answering the questions. So I think getting to actually the right doctor that you're satisfied, that really, satisfied with, that you feel is knowledgeable and that takes your questions seriously. So I think the first step is really be informed, read up on menopause. There's some great information out there. The Mayo Clinic has a wealth of information. Another organization called NAMS, which is, it stands for North American Medical or Menopause Society. So there's a section on their site that's open to the public. Our site, we have a lot of information. We have an interview that's amazing with Dr. Ekta Kapoor, one of our experts. She was a leading doctor that specializes in menopause at Mayo Clinic. And we're going to be building out a lot more content on our site, but those are just 3 places where you can read up on menopause. So I think to really take control of the situation with your own doctor, you have to first be informed and be educated about menopause. Then you have to also ask for solutions. There are a lot of solutions out there, and it's important that they educate you about what your options are. And then the third question should be really around, are you a candidate for hormone replacement therapy? And there are pros and cons to HRT, but it's really important that you understand what all of your options are. So I would say that those are our 3 tips for kind of demanding better medical advice from your doctor. And if you're not getting it, you should switch doctors.
Yeah. Okay. So starting with educating ourselves, and it sounds
Absolutely.
like your website can really point us in a lot of good directions,
Yes.
along with that Mayo Clinic site.
Absolutely.
A lot of women will stick with their OBGYN as their gynecologist because they had, their babies with whoever that doctor was. But sometimes those doctors are not necessarily specialists in menopause. And so, I mean, I know I'm personally going through this now. My doctor, who I've loved for years and years, I'm considering changing because he's not a menopause specialist. He was a great like OBG, but OB, but not necessarily GYN. So there are doctors out there that definitely specialize in menopause, perimenopause, menopause, HRT, hormone replacement, supplements, all of that. And that is really important to make sure you're with the right doctor. Because what we've learned along the way as well is a lot of doctors are just not educated. These classes are optional in medical school. So they don't necessarily have to take these classes. And often we hear from women, we get a lot of blank stares when they are talking to their doctors, or as Sally said, even worse, this feeling that like maybe you're like crazy, like, oh, it's just, you're not sleeping well, you're not eating right, have you thought about going on an antidepressant? That might not be the answer to the problem.
Mm-hmm.
I find myself just nodding my head, and I'm wondering how many people in the audience, how many women in the audience are just shaking their heads along with everything that you're saying here. So
Yeah.
Amen. Amen.
yeah, right. And so really finding that right doctor is absolutely paramount. And once we get that doctor, after we've educated ourselves and we've gotten that doctor, what can we do, Michelle, about the marketplace? How do we get better support in the marketplace through menopause?
When you mean better products and services?
Yeah, I think so. Better product. Well,
Yeah.
yeah.
I
Or
mean,
in communities, just better support outside of the healthcare. There's other
I
things.
think that what Sally said earlier, that I do believe that there will be a sea change. I think our generation perhaps has been very quiet and just talking amongst ourselves around these issues, while the generation that's sort of behind us, or are much more in tune with their health and wellness experience. They're much more open. This is our perception. I don't have like data to support this, but I can see, this is what I'm seeing out there. They're much more open about talking about sexual issues, about their sexual wellness. There are more products and things available to those women. One of the things that Sally and I saw was that clean, natural, healthy ingredients were very important to women, and products lines focused on 20s, 30s, and 40-year-olds, but not necessarily on women over 50. So, what we're doing is creating a product line that addresses a lot of the issues that we're hearing from women, but making sure it's clean ingredients, sustainable packaging, like the things that we are thinking about on top of what you're putting on your skin. It's, how are we thinking about the entire package? There are other brands focused on menopause that are doing the same thing. And I think the more of us that are out there talking about it, the more you will see that people see opportunity and provide for these women, provide for all of us. I think in terms of doctors and education, that's a tough one. I think, Sally and I are very involved in Mayo Clinic, and there's an organization called North American Menopause Society. And it is the number one thing people talk about is how do we get our doctors better educated, our primary care physicians better educated. A lot of nurse practitioners sometimes seem to be the best people to go to and talk to. But I do think that people like Sally and me who see an opportunity will bring better products and services to the market, because we're seeing such a huge gap, and no reason to suffer in silence too. I mean, what our mothers went through, and we went on, and women who are maybe in their 60s now coming back to saying, I wish somebody had this for us when I was going through it. There's a real gap in this, like, education, information, and inspiration. And I think brands like ours are trying to fill that gap. And, I think that's almost like the best we can say to you right now. Where we saw an opportunity, just both personal and from a business perspective, and we're really trying to do something about it.
It sounds like we need to speak up. We don't want to suffer in silence. Speak up, be demanding, and push the market a little bit.
Absolutely.
Yes.
There are,
Yeah.
No, I was just going to say, there are some telehealth services out there that specialize in menopause too. One is Electra with a K. We can definitely send the link. We've spoken to the founders. They're lovely women working hard to really get this off the ground, but they will connect you to experts as well. So it's an online service, could be, in the form of like a Zoom call with an expert. So you don't have to be in a major city to have those kind of services at your fingertips. So it's a very new modern way with this telehealth service to get to the right experts.
Yeah.
So.
And that's great to know. And I just want to assure everyone in the audience that all these links and these resources that we're talking about, we're going to make available not only in the chat, but in the after session email. So not to worry about that if you're not catching all the links. I do want to stop. I have a question from Claudia, and I think it fits really nicely right here. And the question is, how would workplaces adapt to accommodate this phase in life for their more mature employees? Should it be discussed with the inline manager? Should managers be trained on what the potential impact is on performance, like loss of sleep or brain fog? What
Well,
should employers?
I saw that question come up, and I think that is so interesting. And
Great question.
it's a what I don't have a great answer, but I will say there's more and more being written about this issue. Um, the fact that women, there's so many layers to this. Like on the one hand, I've heard from the most senior, CEO level people sitting in board, a woman sitting in a board meeting with 7 men, and she's having a terrible hot flash, and how embarrassing that was. And, it kind of feeds into this whole conversation, like, why should she be embarrassed? It's not, like, how can we take the stigma away? And but the immediate feeling is embarrassed, and I feel old, and so it's from that level down to literally workers from on all levels of not feeling great in the workplace, having hot flashes in public, which might not be, if you're one of a few women, it might be uncomfortable. We've heard of women who have had to leave jobs, again, on all levels, because they were just so uncomfortable, whether it was joint pains or other things that were going on in their body because of menopause. So I guess I would answer, and Sally, I'd love to hear what you think of. Yeah, we've talked a little bit about this, but I think it is something that the more we do speak up, and the more it's something that's normalized and just something that's going on within women should be supporting other women in those situations. But I do think it will become less of a embarrassing situation that women are have to kind of suffer again alone.
Yeah, I agree, Michelle. I think LinkedIn has been a great resource for us too. I think there's some groups on LinkedIn that are menopause in the workplace related. I think Michelle's right. I think it has to be much more of a PR story, and women just have to eventually stand up for this issue, because we do bring so much experience and wisdom to the workplace. And obviously these companies are very in tune now to other issues that a lot of people are going through, but menopause doesn't seem to be one of them right now. So I think it's bringing awareness and being an advocate for this as well.
Very well. So I have I'm looking at the chat now. You're really striking a lot of chords here with our audience. And I see that this support idea is so important. Before I get to this next question from Chloe, though, I feel like I want to go to this one other pillar. You talked about support from the medical community. You talked about support in the marketplace with products and so forth. And we talked about support in organizations. What about with partners and family members? And then I promise, Chloe, we'll get to your question.
Yeah, no, it's such a good topic. We actually had early on, when we launched a few, 3 months ago, we had a man reach out to us, and he wrote this incredibly beautifully written email to me about how he lost his wife to menopause. And he's gone on to write books about how husbands could be more in tune. I'm happy to, provide the link as well. But we do think there is a huge opportunity to educate partners and family members about menopause as well. I think that's the next step. First, we've got to just educate the woman. But I think you're absolutely right. This is a huge opportunity. I think, his story was very moving because he tried a lot of different things, and he's actually turned his whole career now into creating menopause supplements, and he's written some books on menopause support for women. And so we can't forget about the impact that this can have on, our partners and our family members. It's a big change.
Yeah.
Okay, thanks for that. Yeah, those are, and the resources you're providing, I can't.
Right. Yeah, and I think, we will write more pieces of content. So, keep checking out our site as over the next several months, because we do think that is a piece that we need to write about, because it's not widely publicized. It's kind of, again, one of those almost like double taboo topics.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And it is
talk
serious.
about-
I think it could lead to, some women consider divorce. I mean, there's like a life change that happens. As Sally said, like some women, there's almost like a boost of productivity and creativity from a lot of women when they go into menopause. It's something we've heard a lot about. And, women who maybe are unhappy in their marriage might use it as a time to get, leave their marriage, or they might be really anxious to kind of fix their marriage, or want to take on different kind of personalities and hobbies, and their partners really need to support them in this. And it could be a very exciting time and a very productive and, like I said, creative time. But, just like the woman is not necessarily educated, men are not as well.
Yeah.
And they might see somebody who they maybe don't recognize.
Yeah.
I have to laugh because Claudia wrote about having 2 teenage sons and they have to normalize it at home. I have 2 teenage sons and all they talk about is menopause. So what I do, I have hopefully 2 boys that will be very sympathetic to their partners in life.
But I do think, just from my own personal experience with my husband, I think we have to also be more verbal about it to our families, to our family members, because the more I was explaining what I was going through, he was a great supporter in, even doing his own research as well. And Michelle knows, we've been batting back and forth, like what I'm going through. Like right now, I'm going through a lot of joint pain. Is that because I have arthritis? Is it tied to menopause? And he's helping me kind of navigate this. So, don't suffer in silence, I guess, is my message. Try to bring your partner in on the conversation, and hopefully they can help you also do some research and kind of navigate some of the challenges.
So Chloe would like to know if we have all of that. Maybe we have all of that in place, maybe we don't, but do we have another opportunity to be involved with a community of women to chat with about going through menopause? And I think specifically she wanted to know whether, because North American Menopause Society was cited in the chat, but she wanted to know specifically if you have a place or you have something that they can.
Yeah, we sure do. We sure do. That's a big piece of our brand and why we started it. We really felt like women needed to and wanted to connect with other women. They wanted to be inspired, be informed, hear what other tips women have. I think I've learned a lot about my own health just from talking to my friend group too. So we actually have a private Facebook group called the After Party. We named it the After Party because that's when you have the most intimate conversations after the party is over. And you can also have more fun after the party's over at the after party. So we're really setting this community up, and we have a woman by the name of Ann Goebel that is leading that community. She's 50 and she's really empathetic, informed, and very fun at the same time, because we really want to make sure this stays upbeat. We want women to share, again, their information, learn from each other, but also have a few laughs along the way. And we think of it almost very similar to a book club, where you might join the book club because of the social aspect. You talk about the book for about 10 minutes when you get together, and the rest of it is really about socializing with other women, right? So that's the after party. And we would love for all of you to join that. And then we have, eventually we're going to have more in-person events as soon as obviously COVID completely lifts. We'll have opportunity for, in-person get-togethers as well as more online sessions as well. And hopefully we'll be back on GetSetup to do more sessions as well. So I think all of these interactions really help build community and really, again, inform and inspire each other.
Well, we really do hope that you'll come back. And the idea of joining that Facebook group, I don't know, Chloe, are you doing a happy dance? I think I'm doing a little happy dance that there is such a community. I do have a couple of other questions in the chat that are related specifically to menopause. And I know one of the things that you wanted to make sure the audience knew was that you're not medical professionals, but that you do have this other experience. So with that qualification, I will ask the question, what is the age range that menopause starts? And Shirley has asked this question and has said, I've heard it's getting younger and younger. So can you weigh in on that?
Really, I mean, it could be basically, 45 to 60, is what people say, with a sweet spot of like 47 to 55. But we also hear a lot about premature menopause. So women as young as in their 30s. Well, there's two different things. I mean, some women who have had hysterectomies or have had various forms of cancer will enter into menopause early. But on top of that, there is premature menopause. And this doctor we just interviewed, Dr. Ekta Kapoor, she's actually a specialist in premature menopause. So it is a thing. It's very real. I would also say we've noticed from even the sales on our website of our product, it's skewing much younger than we had anticipated. So yeah, I mean, I don't know the reason, I know women get their periods, girls are getting their periods younger, and I don't know if that's a correlation at all, but we are also hearing a lot about premature menopause.
Yeah, so it's something that she's heard, and obviously you have as well. So there's something there.
I had it for a long time. It actually like 14 years or more.
Yeah.
With the hot and cold,
Yeah.
get hot and cold and all that.
Yep.
Yeah.
It can definitely go on for more than 10 years. The average is 10 years, but it can be longer than that.
You shouldn't feel concerned if it's well, you might be concerned, but it's not a cause for concern that it goes on a little longer.
Yep.
Necessarily. So the other question that was related to menopause was this condition of crepey skin. Is that normal? Is that a part of menopause? Is there anything that we can do about that?
That goes along with that very quick reduction of collagen that creates crepey skin. A lot of women get it on their arms, on their legs. It literally looks like crepe paper. We have a product called The Works, which we specifically say is for crepey skin. And it's really about, it has an ingredient called Hyaclear 7, which is an advanced form of hyaluronic acid that helps with the smoothing of that skin. But that is it's like one of the number one things people talk about when they talk about skincare. And it's, again, that goes back to your original question about the difference between aging and menopause. That decrease in collagen creates that sort of crepey look.
Carol Sue, thanks.
We are not sitting here today saying you can get rid of crepey skin, right?
Right. I mean, you can make it look better. You can smooth it out a little bit, but unfortunately, it's here to stay.
Yeah, and I think for what I've noticed with my own, because I used to have very oily skin, now I have very dry. It's just more hydration. And that's why, investing in, again, our products aren't that expensive, but investing in the products that, are bringing you the Hyaclear 7, which is exclusive to us, or hyaluronic acid, some of these retinol, these are good ingredients for aging and menopausal skin.
Very helpful. Thanks, Carol Sue, for that question. I think you asked that question for all of us. Okay, I want to have one wrap-up question here before we do start to just pull it together for the end. Where can people go? It's kind of a catch-all question to get more information on menopause and perimenopause. And I'll tie into that question one from, wait, my chat just skipped around. Let me get back to that. If there are any specific ones that you know of in Canada. And I'll make that a three-part question because we have one other that you could wrap up with is, can you share a few of your top products? So it all falls into that resource category. So take them in whatever order you like.
Yeah, I mean, I think that in Canada, you can obviously access, I would recommend the Mayo Clinic site because they have so much information on NAMS. We already said NAMS. I think we provided a link. And then again, our own site, and we're building out more and more content. So please, please check out what we have already under the Meno 101 section, but then we're going to be building out a lot more. There's just, I think there are a lot of menopause books on the market too. And so investing in a few of those, I think would be really smart. I have a few here that this one is great from Stephanie Fabian, who leads the Women's Health Center at Mayo Clinic. It's called The Menopause Solution.
And I have this one, which is also good. The Wisdom of Menopause. It covers a lot of topics. I mean, it's something, a resource that I use. I would say, it goes back to that question about finding the right doctor. And, a lot of women's health clinics, things that are focused on women, should be a good resource. But again, it is finding that right doctor who's gotten the education. That's
Right.
like a very key piece of this.
Yeah, I think these books are great for just overall education, because like I had no idea that what I was experiencing was related to menopause.
Mhm.
And so had I actually been more informed about kind of the basics, but each woman's experience is unique, right? So you really do need to consult your doctor. And again, demand, if you're not getting answers, try a new doctor, ask your girlfriends. Maybe Electra would be a good resource because they do have these different experts, but you just got to keep working at finding the right medical partner that will give you answers that are satisfying to you, because each woman's experience is very unique.
Okay, thank you. So I don't want to let you go, and we are getting close to the end, but please showcase or talk a little bit about some of your products and the symptoms they help to alleviate.
I guess one of our top selling products is a product called Menopause. It's a supplement that highlights 3 ingredients. One is called pycnogenol, ashwagandha, and baganize. And pycnogenol is a really interesting ingredient. It comes from French maritime bark. It's highly studied. What we found is we did a ton of research. We wanted to know what was actually going to help with night sweats, hot flashes, mood, energy, and what was the most researched out there that can support claims around decreasing the bad symptoms and making you feel better. And pycnogenol is a great ingredient. And we use it at very high levels as an active ingredient. It's very safe. Ashwagandha also helps with mood, and baganize helps with like that whole brain fog. And again, a lot of clinical data behind all 3 of these ingredients. So that's in our Menopause product. It's one of our top sellers on our site. We have also a product called Let's Neck, which is a serum for the neck. It kind of helps with the crepey skin, but it has a roller ball that stays cool. So as you're applying it, it also cools your skin down while you're using the serum. We have the Works, which helps with the crepey skin on your body. We have a vaginal moisturizer called Daily V. That's a water-based vaginal moisturizer. Vaginal dryness is something we hear, from everybody. Issues having sex, vaginal dryness, everyday dryness during intimacy. We chose to develop a water-based, it's very limited in the ingredients, so it won't cause bacterial infections. It's not full of anything except really it's almost like a gel, and it should help with vaginal dryness for most women, and that's also a top seller on our site. And the last one is our other supplement called Active Glow. It's actually sitting right here. And that's sort of beauty from the inside out. It's biotin and hyaluronic acid for hair, skin, and nails, but also as an ingredient called Longvita, which is really about it's a concentrated form of turmeric that helps with joint pain and inflammation, as well as pomelo, which comes from pomegranate, same thing, antioxidants, and helps with inflammation. Those are really our top 5 selling products on our site. We have others as well. You should definitely go check them out, but we're getting great feedback. I would definitely, Google the ingredients that are in our supplements. Like I said, there's really, really great data behind them. And so if you are having hot flashes in particular, the pycnogenol is a great place to look.
And we might need a little further conversation later or offline about this, but in general, there were a couple of questions about interactions with this, with any medications. Are there any cautionary notes about that?
I mean, we've been working on this for quite some time. We actually worked with about 75 gynecologists who reviewed the label and reviewed the ingredients on both of our supplements, and they were highly recommended by both primary care physicians and gynecologists, with no issues surrounding combinations of medications. But I will always say, check with your doctor.
Well, thank you. Thank you very much for that. And I predict high traffic to your website after this
Thank you,
presentation.
lady.
You know, I would just say, like, we did this for all of us, right? I mean, we're doing this for all of the women that are in our network and in our world, and we know that a lot of people are dealing with the same issues. So support each other and support our community, and hopefully we can change,
Yeah.
the way the
Don't
world
be
sees
shy.
it.
Don't be
Yeah.
shy, and
Don't
feel
be
free to
shy.
reach out. Michelle and I are always wanting to
Yeah.
talk to women, and if we could do something like this every day, we would, because we love it so much. And like Michelle said, just spreading the word and supporting each other is really what will make the difference.
Thank you so much, ladies.
And
So